Welcome to Scone Bake and Beyond. Hi, I'm Kathy, and I enjoy making scones, muffins, cookies, and all sorts of delicious baked goodies. For our Bible study small group potluck, I am making my ham and Swiss scones with honey mustard. These savory scones are perfect with brunch, a light lunch with a salad, or an anytime snack. I know these delicious ham and Swiss scones will be a great addition to our potluck. So let's bake. So whenever making scones, the first thing I always do is I grate my butter. The reason why I grate the butter is because it's just going to be the right size when I mix it into the dry ingredients. And also, as the butter melts, it's going to create steam, and that steam creates wonderful layers in your scones and makes for a lighter texture. There we go. Our butter's all grated, and now, because this butter's starting to come up to room temperature, and I want to keep this butter as cold as I can for as long as I can, I'm going to put this butter up in the freezer. While our butter is in the freezer, it's time to get our honey mustard spread together. So I have a small bowl here, and to that I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of low-fat cream cheese, and this cream cheese is at room temperature. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise. There we go. I have here 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Get that in there. And to that, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of honey. Now, before I put the honey in here, I actually did spray this little bowl with a little bit of Pam, just so the honey would come out much easier. So we have here 1 tablespoon of honey. I'm going to whisk all these ingredients together until it's smooth. There we go. It's nice and smooth. And there's still going to be a little bit of lumps because of the cream cheese, but it's still going to taste wonderful. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this aside. Okay, now it's time to get our dry ingredients together. So I have here 2 cups of unbleached flour, 1/4 cup of whole wheat pastry flour. I like adding a little whole wheat flour to my baked goods, but I use whole wheat pastry flour because it's lighter in texture. And because these are savory scones, I use a lot less sugar in these scones, but you still need sugar in these scones. So I have 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. We're going to whisk these together. And now it's time to add our 8 tablespoons of butter that we grated and put up in the freezer. So this is 8 tablespoons of frozen grated butter. Get all that in there. All that wonderful butter goodness in there. There we go. Let's see if I got any. Oh, I got it all in there. This butter is just the perfect size to mix in with our dry ingredients. And what's going to happen when these scones bake is that butter is going to let off some steam, and that steam is going to create wonderful layers in your scones and make them light and tender. Okay. So now it's time to add 1 cup of cold buttermilk. There we go. We're just going to mix this together until it's just combined. You don't want to overmix this dough. Okay, it's all combined together. It's coming together in a bowl, so now it's time to get it on our lightly flour our board here. And just kind of try and get all the dry bits off the bottom, but there will always be a little bit of dry bits left down there, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. There we go. I just don't really want to overwork this dough. So I have some dry bits down there, and that's okay. So we're going to leave the scone making world and go into a little bit of the croissant making world and use the technique from the croissant making world. We're going to roll this out into a 12-inch by 12-inch square. You'll be surprised, this does not make the dough any tougher by rolling this out like it. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's see how we're doing. That is 12 inches by 12 inches, just perfect. So just like in croissants, we're going to fold this up in thirds and fold it the other direction in thirds. Now I started handling this dough. That butter's starting to come up to room temperature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little board here and add a little flour on there. There we go. Put my dough on there. I'm going to put this up in the freezer for 5 minutes to get that butter chilled back down again. Okay, just took our dough out of the freezer. It's nice and cold again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it out into a 12-inch by 12-inch square. Okay, let's see how we're doing. Going to square this up just a little bit. So we're going to use a technique from cinnamon roll making. Get that all squared up. Let's see. Yep, 12 inches by 12 inches, perfect. My little scraper here has inches measurements on it, so I know how far 12 inches is. So now we're using a technique from cinnamon roll making, and that wonderful honey mustard spread that we made earlier. It's time to put it on here. This stuff tastes so good. Of course, I do like honey, I do like mustard, so it's a wonderful combination to me. So what we want to do is make sure we spread this out to the edges here and all the way up to the top up there, but we're going to leave about an inch gap down at the bottom down here. There. That tastes so good. So now it's time to add, of course, the Swiss cheese and the ham. So I have here 6 slices of Swiss cheese. Just spread these out. And I don't quite start at the very top because I want to get that roll started, and I don't get them down at the bottom because they do kind of scoot down as I start rolling. And now I have 6 slices of ham. There we go. And now we're going to roll it up just like you would a cinnamon roll. So I just start rolling it. Just remember, this is not a yeast dough, so it will tear if you try to stretch it too much. But you do want to roll this up tight, especially this first part. You want to try and get this as tight as you can. And if it starts sticking down to your board, just use your scraper and scrape down there. There we go. I'm going to roll that all the way over, and then I just pinch the seam a little bit, trying to keep it together a little bit better. There we go. There, that looks great. So now we're going to cut it, like cinnamon rolls, we're going to cut it in 12 slices. So I'm going to find the middle, and I'm going to cut right there. And now, get out my knife. So I'm going to find the middle here and start cutting 1-inch slices. There we go. They're all cut up. Move this off to the side. Now I use a really sharp serrated knife because it just seems to cut this better and it keeps them more round instead of squishing them down. If I try to use my scraper here, it just kind of squishes it down. So a nice, really sharp serrated knife works really well. Except for the end pieces. The end pieces, we're going to put the end piece side down. And the rest, just one of the cut sides down. I'm going to put these on our baking sheet, and I have here a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. They're all rolled up on our parchment lined baking sheet, so now it's time to put a little egg wash. I have 1 slightly beaten egg. This will give them that wonderful golden brown finish. we go. And just to give them a little color, I have 1 tablespoon of finely chopped parsley. So just sprinkle that on top. We're going to bake these at 400 degrees for 15 to 17 minutes. Okay, it's been 15 minutes. Oh, they smell wonderful. They're nice and golden brown. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take these scones and this parchment paper off the baking sheet. And the reason why I do that is I don't want the bottom of these scones to cook any more than they already have. We're going to let these cool down, and then it's time to try one. Okay, they've cooled down about 15 minutes, and they're still warm, so they're going to be wonderful. They smell wonderful. That cheese is just ooey gooey in there. So now it's time to try one. I cut this open here. All those wonderful layers in there. You have the honey mustard spread in there. And that cheese, that Swiss cheese is all melted in there. And that ham, it's going to taste wonderful. Mmm. 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 Mm-hmm. Mmm. That scone dough is wonderful, light, and the ham with the honey mustard and Swiss cheese is all nice and melty in there. Oh, it tastes so good. These are going to be a hit at the potluck. If you want the complete recipe, please see my website, sconebaking.com. There is a link below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe for future videos. I hope this inspires you to bake. Thank you for watching. I'm going to eat the whole thing.